This week, we're going to shift gears into the world of sponsorship. So we sponsored Kayla for one round already, and we are going to sponsor her for two more. So we wanted to talk about why sponsoring a writer might be a smart move for your business. And we wanted to break down our strategy because there was a strategy behind it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Full Throttle Finance, a financial literacy podcast that's geared towards taking complex financial topics and breaking them down into bite-sized, relatable chunks. My name is Felicia, and I am your CEO at Clean Bee Consulting, and with me is Ali, who is our lovely senior bookkeeper. And together we focus on revving up the financial foundations for athletes, entrepreneurs, and leaders in business. Regardless if you're operating from an established program already or if you are just getting started, we're here to help you make small shifts that drive better financial performance.
Yes. And last week, we talked about what happens when your business falls behind a little bit. Felicia's been traveling, and our own bookkeeping didn't get, taken care of. But everything else, while she was traveling, did stay afloat without her touching the books from 80 plus uncategorized receipts. It's just to show to how planning can keep the wheels turning in a business.
And I'll document it. It is May 29th, and I'm caught up on our bookkeeping. We stuck to the plan from last episode. It happened that weekend.
I love it. We'll break down the strategy behind our recent sponsorship with Kayla at Motor America Road Atlanta and what brands like Mission Foods are doing right and why companies should look at levying motorsports as a powerful platform for visibility and growth. And we were very intentional about where our logo showed up. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how you could be just as strategic with your marketing dollars by placing your brand in front of the right audience at the right time. You nailed it. So, Felicia, can you talk about how we originally came up with the idea to sponsor Kayla?
Yeah, I can definitely take that one. I always preach on this platform to either put it back into your program or put it into your people or pay it in taxes to the government, right? When you're running a business, you've got profit, and either you're going to pay taxes on that profit or you find a way to invest it back into the things that you care about. And so motorsports are my people, right? And spreading awareness about financial education is something that's always been a big passion of ours here at Full Throttle Finance and at the Clean Bee Consulting firm. So I was determined to find a way that I could put my profits back into the motorsport industry here in the United States. When you look at the United States in comparison to some of these other countries, we just don't hit the mark for bringing up young racers and young athletes in the motorsport industry. We just don't have that same structure and foundation that these other countries have for racers. I wanted to focus on youth and in the youth in motorsports specifically. There's always been an underlying mission with Full Throttle Finance to give back to the motorsport community, and specifically through youth athletes, and whether or not that was a financial support or maybe some budgeting support on the consulting side that maybe they've never had before, or looking at marketing from a different lens even, so that they can understand a little bit more about what entices the business owner to sponsor dollars. That's always just been like this big mission for us, which is why we've created this podcast. That's why we spread awareness. That's why we yap all the time, to be quite honest. First, I really honestly thought that sponsorship, especially this first year or two, would just look like smaller on the scale of things, like still super impactful things, but not nearly what I think we've accomplished this year. But I thought it would be like donations for air fencing or small contributions to teams or organizations here and there, or like buying athlete merch. That's honestly what I thought sponsorship was going to look like for us. I honestly did not think that sponsoring a rider for a round was really in our budget. But mostly that was just because I was basing my judgment off hearsay and what other people in the paddock estimated that cost to be, instead of actually going to the source of the person I wanted to sponsor and asking what it takes for them to run their program. Kayla specifically is a young female athlete that has wowed me for a number of years while I've been following her on her journey. First and foremost, she is a fierce competitor on the track. And I absolutely adore the way that she represents her sponsors when it comes down and comes time to. She's the first female to ever win a Moto America race in Junior Cup in 2022. She was the first female to podium in Moto America and Twins Cup in 2023. And she was the first female athlete to podium in Moto America Super Sport in 2024. Like, she's just amazing.
Girl's got it going.
Yes, and she treats her fans with warmth, which is something else that I really appreciate about her. And I was actually on Facebook when I saw an advertisement that she was seeking sponsors for the season, and so I literally just decided to shoot my shit with her. And I was wowed from the moment that we started conversing throughout the entire process. Like, she could honestly walk circles talking about finances and strategy in comparison to some of the adult clients that I've worked with over the years. I loved her website. I loved how transparent it was for me as an investor in her program, as an investor in her, to see where the actual dollars that I'm going to throw her way for her program were actually going to get used. And she literally answered every question that I had along the way. For us, marketing in motorsports makes sense for a few reasons. Obviously, it's the clientele that we really want to help maximize. These teams and these athletes, they're not just out there for the Moto America stuff. Like, a lot of them also have businesses that they run in tandem with the motorsport racing, or is a sponsor of their race program or something like that. We really want these clients to see our logo, to talk about who we are, because they're the ones that we can help most out in that paddock. But also, we're a remote service provider. Like, we work with clients across all of the states in the United States. Having our logo on a specific track necessarily doesn't matter so much to us, because we can service clients at all of the racetracks or in the surrounding areas of all the racetracks on the Moto America calendar. There were a lot of reasons, but it was so cool seeing our logo on freaking TV. Like, that, it's something that's going to be replayed time and time over again, and the marketing just keeps paying its own dividends the more and more it gets aired or rewatched or shared along, like, even like social media and everything, right? Like, we were all over the place for a while, and I still continue to see our logo in shared posts to this day, honestly.
Yeah, and not just by her, it's, Moto America, by people who are sharing her post. I mean, it's cool. When we were thinking about sponsoring Kayla, we didn't just want any spot or the cheapest spot that she was providing. We were very strategic about the placement on Kayla's helmet. Felicia, do you want to talk about why and where we chose to be?
Yeah, she gave me a list of different placements and their respective prices right off the bat. And at first I thought I might have wanted one of the areas, but what I ultimately landed on was the chin bars. And it's funny because, like, I took a picture because I wasn't exactly sure, like, where on the chin bar, like, what, because I know, like, one of her title sponsors is in that area too. So I'm like, wait a minute, like, where is this? She literally sent me a different picture and circled it and was like, no, it's actually going to be here. And I liked the chin bars once I got that clarification, because it was on both sides of the helmet. Like, I got both chin bars for the price that I paid, which was part of the strategy, because one side or the second side was the second option, and it's a 50-50 on what side's going to be showing on pictures or on track or in social media or anything like that. The chin bar made it like a guarantee that no matter what, even if it's like the front angle of the helmet, like, it's a rounded helmet, so you could see the logo pretty much no matter who or what angle they were shooting from, which was super cool. And I also kept our logo in mind with her livery and with the actual, like, size and shape of the logo. Like, our logo is long and it's got some text in it, so it, like, can't really be shrunken super small. Otherwise, you can't read what it is, but it was the same color scheme and it was a longer little section. So like you could actually tell what it was on TV, and that was so cool.
And I think it was really smart, the placement that we chose. I think I thought it ended up looking really good. It was very easy to read the Full Throttle Finance whenever we saw it on TV, and then whenever we see it in social media, it ended up looking really nice, and it stuck out really well. So I think we chose a really nice spot. And usually when you're looking at a sponsored rider, it is really important to look at their reach on their platforms, their Instagram, their TikTok, their YouTube, Facebook, whatever. But in our case, we really just dug Kayla as a person, and we think that she has a really good potential in the motorsport world. She fits our values really well. We were already looking at helping the youth, and she is still the youth, and she's so ambitious. So she just really aligned with our values super well.
That is a huge part. She aligned so well. And if I was going to quote unquote rush the process of sponsoring a rider, then yeah, I'm very happy that we landed on Kayla, because I already knew she was good to her sponsors, because back when she was injured, she kept her, like a couple seasons ago when she was injured and she wasn't able to race. Like she literally was in a golf cart going out and interviewing people in the Moto America paddock. Like she was keeping her name and her face fresh and current. And like she was a few years younger than she is now. So she was probably like honestly like 14 or something like that. And to see like a young individual with just such grit and motivation, like yeah, I wanted to sponsor her before I knew that I wanted to sponsor her, like more than just being a fan of hers and cheering for her to do well at the races. And her personality, to be quite honest, is a really good marketing strategy on her own part, because she shows up and she shows up proud. I think that the personality of the athlete really makes a difference when you look at some of these bigger title sponsors actually setting down on who their niched riders are going to be for any given season. And I know she's proud to be working with them because she shows it very often at the track, on social media. She does such a great job. But she's also an amazing role model for young aspiring athletes, regardless of gender, in my opinion. She's just a great role model to look up to, honestly. And we literally can't beat her socials reach. Like when she followed us back on Instagram, like our posts immediately started to reach the right market of people. And that was just like, she had liked a couple of posts that we had clipped up for the podcast or something like that week's episode, but like just that little blip like really did do something good for our algorithm on Instagram. And during the race week when she was shouting us out and tagging us, like my views were higher than they normally are too. There's a lot of reasons, but I would say the number one reason why I'm super stoked that we chose Kayla is that she's an amazing role model for young athletes.
And yeah, I completely agree with you. And to shift gears here a little bit, I want to talk about the sponsors. When we were at Road Atlanta in the paddock, you saw very little variety when it came to smaller sponsors. There was a clear winner, and it was Mission Foods. They were on helmets, they're on tents, they're free bags of chips and salsas and tortillas and everywhere.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, as healthy girls, we just really wish that there was a healthier brand plastered all over Moto America. Something geared towards helping these athletes, healthy drinks, healthy snacks. Felicia, we previously talked about Numa.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to talk about Numa again.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lesson here. So yeah, I love the introduction of Mission Foods into Moto America, even though they maybe don't use 100% ingredients that I align with. I think what they've done is they've shown consumables a different way of reaching new customers, and it's something that's unparalleled and untouched. Like you just can't beat that exposure. And Mission Foods started a couple years ago in Moto America, and it was actually pretty small. I think they might have only been sponsoring Moto America or like only sponsoring direct athletes at that point. But it wasn't like the whole shebang that they are now. Now I do believe they're one of the title sponsors for Moto America, and they sponsor as title sponsors on a number of athletes that are in some of the premier classes in Moto America too. But you're right, like they have their entire product line out there that you can just take, and it's at the teams that they sponsor, at the athletes they sponsor, it's at their tents, it's in the Moto America tent. Like I think they have an entire like little sitting area with a whole bunch of snacks and stuff, and they even made like you saw them, I've seen them for a couple years, but the motorcycle shaped tortilla
Yep.
chips. I think what it does is it puts your brand, yeah, you do have to give away free product, but it puts your brand out there in hands of people that are literally going to need to eat or drink at some point during their 8-hour stint in the sun. And for consumable brand, it's like the equivalent of handing out samples at Costco, but on steroids, in my opinion.
Literally.
Because it's like you're there, you're immersed in the experience, which is part of, I think, the biggest gap is that a lot of these brands don't get to experience what it's like to be in the paddock before they're pitched to sponsor a motorcycle, like a motorsport team or an athlete directly.
And to do something cool, like creating a chip in the shape of a motorcycle. It is so smart. It's so unique.
It's memorable.
So
It's attractive.
extremely memorable. Like I considered keeping the bag of chips that I picked up there just as like a little memorial of like, oh, this is my first motorcycle race, and there's a chip
Yeah.
shaped like a motorcycle. So
And undoubtedly, Mission had to have seen a return on investment from those initial years when they were a lot smaller in the motorsport paddock, because now they're everywhere in the motorsport paddock. So, like, obviously, there was benefit from them being out there and getting their products in the hands of consumers. And we're talking about literally a giant brand that everybody probably already knew about before
yeah,
they went to the racetrack. I think especially for the non-alcoholic premium beverage industry, maybe let's call it, there's just so many dollars left on the table that just aren't being utilized through athlete and team and direct organization sponsorships. I know Olipop dove into NASCAR, I think last year, maybe the year before, but we need more of that. And I think, as like I mentioned before, a big disconnect is that people just don't understand the culture because maybe they haven't experienced it themselves being out there in a motorsport paddock for an entire race weekend, let's say. And I think that's honestly one of the better tools that people could use to attract better sponsors into their programs in the future is invite these brands out for the weekend. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a cost for you to get them a hotel room and pay for their admission tickets for the weekend. But if there's a brand you want, they need to experience what it's like to be in the motorsport paddock because that energy is so unparalleled and unmatched. And that's honestly what sells. And if you're a manufacturer of a consumable good, and you're out there and you're just watching your products in all of the hands of people coming around this paddock, like
100%.
to me, I just see dollar signs at that point, and it's opportunities. And I think that getting these brands to experience the atmosphere and the culture ahead of time will probably make it a lot easier to actually sign pen to paper when it comes down to like actually contributing to the season's program. And that's why we made little goodie bags filled with some of these smaller clean ingredient brands that we love for both nutrition and for hydration, is so that we could get more brands out to athletes and to teams out there. But essentially, I do think it comes down to athletes and teams needing to convince the brands at this point, and without the brand being able to be there in person to soak it all up, like I can see how that presents challenges in motorsport marketing. But I do think that the actual experience of being there, being immersed in the culture, it really showcases just how far brands reach can really be in the motorsport community. It's a lot more personalized and direct to consumer than a brand might think, which is what we tried to get Numa
We
to
tried.
understand.
Yeah.
was just like, we just want to show you, we want to talk to you, we'll show you what this looks like for your brand because we really love your hydration products. And Numa is literally a hydration brand. It is a soda brand. It is an energy drink brand. So like you've got all of these clean beverages covered with just one brand, and like something like that instead of Pedialyte, instead of Gatorade,
Instead of
Powerade,
Red
instead of
Bull, I
Liquid
mean,
IV, and Red Bull Monsters too, even like give athletes and teams the actual hydration and support that their bodies need through clean ingredients and amplify your message in the right niched market. People who are out there who need energy, who need hydration, and they need clean
yes.
ingredients to keep them sustained for the entire race weekend.
I would love
Andy?
to see how much Olipop's name, like how much they had on growth after doing that. Because I don't know about you, but I only heard of Olipop within the last couple of years. Like I had seen them in store, but like it seems like their brand has blown up over the last couple of years. And I wonder if it's because they have their name out in something that's popular.
Yeah, it's a mix of things with Olipop. They haven't released like the direct correlation between the motorsport marketing and their sales increase, but they did a lot of things at the right time that really expedited their growth, and it allowed them to produce more products in mass, which is what you need for these bigger motorsport events too.
It
Like
is, yeah.
you need a lot of product, but they also started making them shelf stable too, which I think is a big one
Mm.
because
Oh yeah,
Olipop
yeah, that's so
has the
fair.
live probiotics, so like they have to stay chilled. But over the last year, they've gotten all these different flavors and shelf stable versions and in different size cans, right? You got the minis, you got the 12-ounce cans, and you got the travel cans too. So yeah, I would be shocked if motorsports didn't play a significant role because that all happened before the shelf stabilization and whatnot happened. So imagine being a brand that gets a surge of income from marketing in the right niched area, people who like clean beverages and are at sporting events, and then they can check three other goals off their list probably that they maybe thought were on the 10-year plan that now suddenly became the 3 to 5 year plan. So I think that we need to see and dissect and study more of these like situations of these consumable brands diving into motorsport marketing and trying to piece apart what the direct ROI is on those.
I completely agree. And if so, like, say you're a smaller business and you want to start exploring sponsorships, but you have a budget, what would you give some advice to that business since we
Ask.
successfully did it?
Just ask their prices. That's like the first hurdle all on its own is just to ask. You don't know what you don't know, and you won't know until you ask it. You don't know if it is or is not in your budget until you ask. And then, start small. You don't need to be a title sponsor for an entire season. If sponsoring for a specific round is an option, that's lovely. Maybe even they do some motorsport stuff off track that, is not necessarily Moto America, but still hits your right clientele. Like you don't know until you ask. I would say that my biggest pet peeve this season, talking with multiple teams and multiple athletes, is the stringing along. And I don't like that. A, because I'm a finance professional and I firmly believe on paying your bills on time. Sheer number of sponsors that I've heard within the Moto America paddock specifically this season just dropping their agreement completely or just like simply not following through on payment commitments is insane to me. Commit and follow through. Hold yourself accountable for what you've committed to doing for a season. And that's it. It's so incredibly expensive for these teams and for these athletes to chase these dreams in this industry. Don't add to the hurdles that everyone is already facing. If you're going to commit to sponsoring, literally commit to it. Come on, it's 2025. We really should be holding ourselves more accountable, right?
But really, though, yeah.
Too, like if a series comes to a town or a state nearby to you, go support them. Just even if it's one race, like I said, right? You don't have to be a title sponsor for an entire season. You can sponsor a lot of times for just one single race. And then You're in a paddock full of potential clients that you can mingle with while you're out there, right? And then just understand that this is a business tax deduction. It reduces your taxable income at the end of the year. If you weren't spending that money, those revenue dollars, supporting athletes or teams of the sport that you love, then you'd be paying it in taxes to the government. So we choose our herd, right? Do I want to take this revenue and do I want to pay it in taxes to the government? Or do I want to take this revenue and support it into a motorsport community that I love and that I can see is struggling to stay afloat right now? I'm going to choose that, and it's really not that hard to me.
So part of what it looks like to sponsor someone is not just that specific weekend that you were sponsoring that rider on with your logo on their helmet or bike or whatever it is. It's the social media posts that you're going to see following that weekend for however long, and they continue to do other posts. Like Moto America is now going to post pictures of your logo. Other accounts are going to repost or maybe even share pictures with your logo potentially on it. So this gives you a better return on investment when it comes to this type of marketing. So, especially in our case, since we do not have a massive following yet, people see that Full Throttle Finance is sponsoring a rider and may go look into who we are, especially when, Kayla, for instance, shouted us out before her race on her social media.
Full Throttle Finance.
That is so cool that she did that.
Yeah, and the shout out started a week or so before Road Atlanta, so in April, and honestly, I'm still seeing new posts.
So when we first talked about Full Throttle Finance, our dream was to make finances and motorsports collide. We wanted to, like you said earlier, help young riders finance their dreams by, making smart money decisions through financial education. We want to teach how to make racing and motorsports a legitimate business and not just a hobby.
Yeah, and I think we're on that path to success, Allie. It's crazy. It's surreal to just watch it come true. Like I said in the beginning, I honestly thought it was just going to start as donations to air fencing for safety because I'm a big safety advocate. And the fact that we're sponsoring Kayla and that we've fully paid off the sponsorship money already to sponsor Kayla for 3 rounds this season it makes my heart so happy because I mentioned it in an earlier episode. Both of my parents were educators and my dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was creative, and I feel like through the Full Throttle Finance program, I've just been able to take all of their best traits and attributes from their personalities and embody it and embrace it and make it known through the mission and through the goals that we have here at Full Throttle Finance. We would obviously love to be a title sponsor for a full season for a rider at some point down the road, but I don't know if that's next year or if that's a couple years down the road from now. And then we've alluded to it, but we haven't really talked about it. But we would love to build a nonprofit from Full Throttle Finance. It's a part of the reason why we wanted to build this podcast is to start building the community so that we can leverage the community and show more people how these small contributions, when you're able to make them, can really help athletes and teams in the privateer industry, let's say, of motorsports, excel and move forward, and how education and financial education is at the core of all of this. We have a lot of really big plans out there, and I would love to branch out into different sectors of motorsports. Right now we're focusing on motorcycles because it's familiar and that's where we have clients right now, but we would love to get into karting and dirt bikes and car racing as well, because the same principles apply across motorsports. Honestly, the possibilities are endless, and that is why I'm speechless, to be quite honest. We went from just starting this podcast in January of 2025 to sponsoring a rider in May of 2025 for 3 rounds. And we also went to a race, had a retreat, and got to be there in person while we sponsored a rider. It makes my heart happy.
It's a beautiful journey. I'm glad I'm part of it.
I'm glad you were.
This is a good spot to wrap things up, I think. It's never too late to start taking your finances to the next level. If you want to chat with us about streamlining your business, please drop a comment or book a consultation with us. You can visit www.cleanbeeconsulting.com/Full Throttle Finance. That's CLEANBEE consulting.com. If you found today's insights valuable, please like, share, comment, tag all of the things to help show your support for what we're doing here at Full Throttle Finance. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next Friday as we continue to break down finances with a motorsport twist. See ya.
See you next Friday.